At one point, she was Hollywood's most famous star. Then, without warning, she disappeared. No big announcement, no farewell tour. Just gone. What happened? And why did someone so successful suddenly walk away from it all? The truth behind her vanishing act is heartbreaking and more complicated than you might think. Join us as we uncover the rise, the sudden retreat, and the tragic reason behind her disappearance. Bridget Fonda. Bridget Fonda was one of the most recognizable faces in Hollywood during the 1990s. Known for her strong performances and natural screen presence, she starred in several well-known films. Some of her most popular roles were in Single White Female, Point of No Return, and Jackie Brown. Audiences loved her ability to play both vulnerable and powerful characters. She came from a famous acting family. Her grandfather was Henry Fonda, her father was Peter Fonda, and her aunt is Jane Fonda. So acting was in her blood. Bridget didn't just live in the shadow of her famous relatives, though. She made a name for herself with her talent and choice of roles. Bridget's career was active and promising throughout the 1990s. She worked with respected directors and shared the screen with top Hollywood stars. But in 2002, something unexpected changed everything. That year, she was involved in a serious car accident in Los Angeles. Reports at the time said she lost control of her car and drove off the highway. Luckily, she survived and didn't suffer any life-threatening injuries. However, the experience had a deep impact on her. After the accident, she decided to step away from acting entirely. That same year, she took on what would be her final acting role in a TV movie. Since then, she has never returned to the screen. Not long after leaving acting, Bridget Fonda focused on her personal life. In 2003, she married Danny Elfman, a successful composer best known for creating music for films like The Nightmare Before Christmas, Batman, and many of Tim Burton's movies. Together, they have built a private life far away from the busy world of Hollywood. They live in Los Angeles and have one son. Bridget has made it clear through her actions that her family and personal well-being are more important to her than fame. Unlike many former celebrities who still attend red carpet events or stay active on social media, Bridget has stayed almost completely out of the public eye. She rarely gives interviews and has not expressed any interest in returning to film. Her decision to leave acting shows how personal health and priorities can reshape a person's career. Bridget Fonda did not disappear because her career failed or because she wasn't getting roles. She walked away at the height of her career because she wanted a different life. This choice reminds us that even people who seem to have it all in terms of fame and success can choose a quieter, more private path. In a world where many celebrities stay in the spotlight as long as they can, Bridget's decision to step away is both rare and powerful. Her story shows that sometimes walking away takes more strength than staying in the game. Stick around. Next, we're talking about another big name who left it all behind for something more personal. Rick Moranis. Rick Moranis was one of the most beloved comedy stars of the 1980s and early 1990s. He became a household name thanks to a string of hit movies that are still remembered fondly today. He starred in Ghostbusters as the nerdy and lovable Louis Tully, winning over audiences with his perfect comic timing. In Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, he played the quirky scientist Wayne Szalinski, a role that made him a favorite among families and children everywhere. He also starred in Spaceballs, a sci-fi comedy that gained a huge fan following over the years. These roles, along with others in films like Little Shop of Horrors and Parenthood, made Moranis a major star. But despite his success, Rick Moranis made a decision that surprised many people in Hollywood. In the early 1990s, his wife, Ann Belsky, passed away from cancer. They had 2 young children at the time, and after her death, Moranis chose to step away from acting so he could raise them as a single father. He didn't make a big announcement about leaving. He simply stopped accepting new roles and focused on his family life. Over time, people began to notice that he wasn't appearing in new movies, and the industry respected his decision. Moranis has spoken occasionally about this choice in interviews. He explained that he didn't retire from acting forever. He just found that none of the roles being offered were worth being away from his children. He said that raising them was his top priority, and he was fortunate enough to be in a position where he could make that choice. Instead of being on movie sets, he spent those years being present for his children's lives. He later did some voice acting and small behind-the-scenes work, but he remained out of the spotlight for the most part. In 2020, fans were thrilled when Rick Moranis made a brief return to public life. He appeared in a commercial with Ryan Reynolds for Ghostbusters: Afterlife. The ad wasn't part of a new movie role, but it was still exciting to see him on screen again. It reminded people of how much they missed his presence in entertainment. There were also rumors for years that he might return for a sequel to Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. And in 2020, it was confirmed he would appear in a new version called Shrunk. However, as of now, that project has not yet been released. Rick Moranis' story is not just about a successful actor stepping back. It's about a man making a very personal and difficult choice to put his family before his career. In an industry that often values fame and visibility above all else, his decision stands out. It shows a quiet kind of heroism, one rooted in love, responsibility, and sacrifice. Next up is another Hollywood legend who quietly left the screen for a very different kind of spotlight: Gene Hackman. Gene Hackman is one of the most respected actors in Hollywood history. Over the course of more than 40 years, he built a remarkable career filled with powerful performances. He became known for playing strong, complex characters who often had a tough edge. One of his most famous roles was in The French Connection, where he played New York detective Jimmy Popeye Doyle. The performance earned him his first Academy Award for Best Actor. He won a second Oscar for his role in Unforgiven, directed by Clint Eastwood. In that film, Hackman played a ruthless sheriff, and once again, his talent stood out. Throughout his career, Hackman appeared in a wide variety of films. From dramas like Mississippi Burning to comedies like The Birdcage, he proved he could do it all. He was known for bringing depth and realism to every role he played. Fans and critics admired his work ethic and his ability to disappear into his characters. By the early 2000s, he had starred in nearly 80 films and earned countless nominations and awards. He worked with some of the biggest names in the industry and left a lasting impact on the world of cinema. In 2004, Gene Hackman quietly stepped away from acting. His last film was Welcome to Mooseport, a political comedy where he starred alongside Ray Romano. After that, he chose to retire. There wasn't a big announcement or farewell tour. He simply decided it was time to stop. In later interviews, Hackman explained that he wanted to leave the industry while he was still healthy and able to enjoy other parts of life. He didn't feel the need to stay in the spotlight or continue acting just for the sake of it. He had already accomplished everything he wanted to. After leaving Hollywood, Hackman began a completely new chapter. He moved to New Mexico, where he started focusing on writing. He co-authored several historical fiction novels, including Wake of the Perdido Star, Justice for None, and Escape from Andersonville. These books explored dramatic stories set in different periods of American history. Writing allowed Hackman to keep being creative in a different way, but without the pressure and public attention that comes with acting. He has kept a very low profile since retiring, rarely appearing in interviews or public events. He seems to enjoy the peace and quiet of his new life. Stick around. We're about to talk about a star who walked away at her peak to focus on something completely different: Cameron Diaz. Cameron Diaz was one of the most popular actresses in Hollywood from the late 1990s through the early 2010s. She made her film debut in The Mask alongside Jim Carrey, and her performance instantly caught attention. With her charm, energy, and natural screen presence, Diaz quickly became a leading actress. She starred in a number of hit movies, including There's Something About Mary, which became a comedy classic. She also voiced Princess Fiona in the Shrek animated film series, which was a massive success around the world. Over the years, she appeared in romantic comedies, action films, and dramas, becoming one of the highest-paid actresses in Hollywood. Despite her success, Diaz made a surprising decision in 2014. After filming Annie, she stepped away from acting completely. She didn't announce a formal retirement at first, but as years passed, It became clear that she had moved on from Hollywood. In interviews, Diaz explained that the fast pace of the film industry had worn her down. She was constantly traveling, working long hours, and missing out on personal experiences. She realized she had given much of her life to her career, and now it was time to focus on her own well-being. Health and wellness became a top priority for her. She began learning more about nutrition, fitness, and mental health. She also focused on building a life outside of movies. In 2015, she married musician Benji Madden, and in 2019, the couple welcomed their first child. Diaz has said that becoming a mother helped her see life in a new way. She spoke openly about how happy she was to have the time and space to enjoy her family without the pressure of Hollywood. During her time away from acting, Diaz also explored new business opportunities. She co-founded a clean wine brand called Ava Line, which focuses on organic ingredients and transparency about what's in each bottle. She became a voice in the wellness community, often sharing her thoughts on aging, self-care, and health through interviews and books. Her best-selling books, The Body Book and The Longevity Book, focus on helping people feel better in their everyday lives. This new phase of her career allowed her to stay creative, but on her own terms. Next, we'll look at one of the greatest actors of all time who decided to walk away and enjoy life out of the spotlight. Jack Nicholson. Jack Nicholson is one of the most iconic actors in film history. With a career that spans over 5 decades, he has played some of the most memorable roles ever seen on screen. His performance in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest earned him his first Academy Award for Best Actor and is still considered one of the greatest acting performances of all time. In Chinatown, he played private investigator J.J. Gittes in a complex mystery that became a classic. Then there's The Shining, where he gave a chilling and unforgettable performance as Jack Torrance, a role that helped define horror films for generations. With a total of 3 Oscars and 12 nominations, Nicholson has one of the most impressive careers in Hollywood. Despite his fame and long list of hit films, Jack Nicholson quietly stepped away from acting after 2010. His last film was How Do You Know?, a romantic comedy where he played a small supporting role. After that, he stopped taking on new projects and slowly disappeared from the public eye. There was no official statement from Nicholson or his representatives explaining the decision. Fans and media began to wonder why he wasn't appearing in movies anymore. Over the years, there have been several reports suggesting that Nicholson may be dealing with memory loss or health problems, but none of these claims have been confirmed. Nicholson himself has not spoken publicly about why he retired. Some sources close to him have said that he simply doesn't want to act anymore and that he's happy living a peaceful private life. Without any direct information from Nicholson, the real reasons remain personal and unknown. What is clear is that he has made a choice to step away from the spotlight, and he has done so completely on his own terms. Today, Jack Nicholson lives in Los Angeles and is rarely seen in public. Occasionally, he is spotted courtside at Lakers basketball games, something he's been known for over the years, but for the most part, he keeps to himself and enjoys a quiet life away from cameras and red carpets. This decision to live privately is not common among celebrities of his level, which makes it even more notable. Up next, we'll talk about a star who was once everywhere, then chose to slow things down and find a new rhythm. Taylor Lautner. Taylor Lautner became an international star almost overnight, thanks to his role as Jacob Black in the Twilight film series. When the first movie came out in 2008, Lautner was just 16 years old. His character, a strong and loyal werewolf, quickly became a fan favorite. By the time the second film, New Moon, was released in 2009, Lautner had transformed his body for the role and become a major heartthrob. The popularity of Twilight was massive, and Lautner, along with co-stars Robert Pattinson and Kristen Stewart, was suddenly one of the most talked-about young actors in the world. The Twilight saga ran until 2012, with 5 films in total. During that time, Lautner was everywhere. Red carpets, magazine covers, interviews, and award shows. He had fame, attention, and a strong fan base. But once the series ended, things started to change. Unlike some of his co-stars who moved into other high-profile projects, Lner found it harder to land major roles. He appeared in a few films like Abduction and Tracers, but none of them had the same impact or success. Hollywood didn't seem sure where to place him, and as trends shifted, his star power began to fade. Lner didn't give up, though. He continued acting in smaller roles, including a part in the British comedy series Cuckoo, and later in Scream Queens, a TV show created by Ryan Murphy. He also returned to film with the Netflix movie Home Team in 2022, where he played a supportive role in a family-friendly sports story. While these projects didn't bring him back to his previous level of fame, they showed that he still had a passion for acting and was willing to try new things. Outside of acting, Lner made some big changes in his personal life. He stepped back from the Hollywood spotlight and started focusing on things that made him feel happy and healthy. He became more active on social media, where he shares moments from his everyday life, including fitness routines, funny videos, and updates about his dog and his family. He also got married in 2022 to Taylor Dome, a nurse and mental health advocate. The two often post about their life together, showing a more grounded and relaxed side of Lner that fans appreciate. Next, we're diving into the story of a rom-com queen who vanished from the big screen to find herself again. Meg Ryan. For more than a decade, Meg Ryan was one of the most popular and recognizable faces in Hollywood. Often called America's sweetheart, she became known for her roles in some of the most beloved romantic comedies of all time. Her breakout performance came in When Harry Met Sally, a film that is still considered a classic today. She followed that with hits like Sleepless in Seattle and You've Got Mail, both opposite Tom Hanks. These films helped define a generation of romantic comedies, and Ryan's charm, humor, and relatability made her a favorite with audiences everywhere. But in the early 2000s, Meg Ryan started to pull away from the spotlight. After years of constant attention, the pressure of fame began to take a toll. Her personal life, including a high-profile divorce from actor Dennis Quaid and rumors about her relationships, was often in the headlines. At the same time, her film choices started to receive more criticism, and the public began to view her differently. Ryan later admitted that the harsh scrutiny affected her deeply. She felt worn out and wanted space to reconnect with herself. The joy she once found in acting had faded. Instead of continuing to chase roles in front of the camera, Meg Ryan made a conscious decision to step back. She focused on being a mother to her 2 children and began exploring other creative paths. One of those paths was directing. In 2015, she made her directorial debut with the independent film Ithaca, which she also produced and starred in. The film was a quiet, emotional story that marked a big change from the romantic comedies she was known for. Although it didn't make a big splash at the box office, it was a personal project that reflected her desire to tell different kinds of stories. Ryan also stayed away from the red carpet and interviews for several years, choosing to live a more private life. She spent time writing, traveling, and focusing on her personal growth. It wasn't until 2023 that she returned to acting with a new film called What Happens Later, which she also co-wrote and directed. In this romantic drama, she starred alongside David Duchovny. The film tells the story of 2 former lovers who reunite years later. It showed a more mature, thoughtful version of the romance genre and reflected how both Ryan and her audience have grown over the years. Next, we'll look at a former teen idol who found new meaning by stepping behind the scenes, Freddy Prince Jr. In the late 1990s and early 2000s, Freddy Prince Jr. was one of the most well-known young actors in Hollywood. He quickly became a teen heartthrob thanks to his roles in hit movies like I Know What You Did Last Summer and She's All That. These films were incredibly popular among young audiences, and Prince Jr.'s charm and good looks made him a star. He continued to find success in the early 2000s with family-friendly movies like Scooby-Doo and its sequel, where he played Fred, alongside his future wife, Sarah Michelle Gellar. But after a strong start in film, Freddy Prinze Jr. began stepping away from leading roles. Unlike some actors who slowly fade from public view due to fewer offers, Prinze Jr. made a personal decision to take a step back. He wanted to focus more on his home life and be present for his family. He and Sarah Michelle Gellar got married in 2002 and later welcomed 2 children. Prince Jr. has often spoken about the importance of being a hands-on parent and making sure his family always comes first. Rather than chase fame, he chose a more grounded path that gave him balance and happiness. Even though he stepped back from the spotlight, Freddy didn't disappear entirely. Instead, he found new ways to stay creative and keep working in the entertainment industry. He took on voice acting, most notably voicing the character Kanan Jarrus in the animated series Star Wars Rebels. This role earned him praise from fans of the franchise and showed that he could succeed in different areas of entertainment. He also worked behind the scenes as a writer and producer for WWE, bringing his passion for wrestling to life in a whole new way. More recently, Prince Jr. has explored his love of cooking and started a food-themed podcast called That Was Pretty Scary, where he combines his interests in horror films and food. He's also written a cookbook and frequently shares his cooking skills online. These projects show a different side of him, one that's more personal and focused on creativity for fun rather than fame. Coming up, we'll take a look at a child star who turned away from the cameras to find her voice in writing and advocacy. Mara Wilson. Mara Wilson was one of the most familiar child actors of the 1990s. She became a household name thanks to her roles in some of the decade's most beloved family films. Her big break came when she played Natalie Hillard in Mrs. Doubtfire alongside Robin Williams. Just a couple of years later, she starred as Susan Walker in the remake of Miracle on 34th Street. But her most iconic role came in 1996 when she played the title character in Matilda. The film, based on Roald Dahl's book, was a huge success, and Mara's performance as the intelligent and kind-hearted Matilda Wormwood won the hearts of audiences everywhere. At the height of her fame, Mara Wilson was one of the most recognizable young stars in Hollywood. But while she seemed happy on screen, behind the scenes, she was dealing with a lot. Around the time Matilda was released, her mother passed away from cancer, which deeply affected her. As she entered her teenage years, Mara began to lose interest in acting. She also struggled with the pressure of growing up in the public eye. Like many child actors, she found the transition into more mature roles difficult. Hollywood has a reputation for moving on quickly, and Mara felt out of place as she got older. Eventually, Mara made the choice to leave acting during her teenage years. She decided to step away from the film industry and focus on her education and personal growth. She attended New York University, where she studied writing and developed a new passion for storytelling outside of movies. While she no longer appeared in big films, Mara wasn't turning away from creativity. Instead, she was finding her own voice, this time as a writer. In 2016, Mara Wilson published a memoir titled Where Am I Now? In the book, she opened up about her life as a child star, her experiences with grief, and her struggles with mental health, including anxiety and obsessive-compulsive disorder. Her honesty and vulnerability connected with many readers, especially young adults who grew up watching her movies. Mara has become an advocate for mental health awareness and often speaks out about the importance of self-acceptance and emotional well-being. She uses her platform to help others feel less alone, especially those dealing with anxiety or the pressures of being in the public eye. Next, let's talk about another familiar face from the past who traded Hollywood fame for a peaceful life far from the cameras. Phoebe Kates. Phoebe Kates became a pop culture icon in the 1980s. Her breakout role came in Fast Times at Ridgemont High, a teen comedy that became a cult classic. Her performance was unforgettable and made her one of the most talked-about young actresses of the time. After that, she starred in the popular horror comedy Gremlins and its sequel, Gremlins 2, The New Batch. Kates had a unique combination of beauty, talent, and charm, and she quickly gained a devoted fan base. By the early 1990s, she was a familiar face on the big screen and appeared to have a long Hollywood career ahead of her. But unlike many actors who stay in the industry for decades, Phoebe Kates made a very different choice. In the mid-1990s, she quietly stepped away from acting. Her decision wasn't because of a lack of roles or declining popularity. Instead, it was a personal choice centered around her family. In 1989, she married actor Kevin Kline. The couple later had 2 children, and Kates decided to focus on raising them full-time. She preferred to give her attention to her home life rather than continue the demanding schedule that comes with acting in films. From that point on, Phoebe Kates mostly disappeared from public view. She did take on one small film role in 2001, appearing in The Anniversary Party, which was directed by her longtime friends Jennifer Jason Leigh and Alan Cumming. But aside from that, she has stayed out of the spotlight. She made a conscious decision to step away from the Hollywood lifestyle and raise her children in a more private, grounded environment. Her husband, Kevin Kline, has continued acting, but Kates has remained committed to her quieter life. In 2005, she started a new chapter by opening a boutique store in New York City called Blue Tree. The store, located on Madison Avenue, offers a mix of fashion, gifts, art, and home goods. It reflects her personal style and love for creativity. Kates runs the store herself, and many customers are surprised to find that the owner is the same actress they once admired on screen. Blue Tree has become a successful and beloved part of the neighborhood. It also represents the new path Kates chose for herself, one that allows for creativity and independence without the pressures of Hollywood. If you enjoyed this video on stars who stepped away from fame, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more interesting videos on Hollywood's most fascinating stories.